Good afternoon, everyone. So, usually I'm my normal Ron 322 self, but today is not that day, right? It's just Ronnie today. There's a very special reason for this. Anyone that's followed me on Facebook would know. I decided to announce a video mini series, talk about my mental health journey. Um, Obviously, a lot of you are new to me because, I started using Twitch back in 2020 during the whole pandemic scenario. Same goes with my YouTube, all of that, right? But of course, in the process, for me, 2020 was a very pivotal moment for my mental health. It was the year where I started seeking, on a very strong level, help for myself to be able to get my life together on a mental, emotional, and to the, a lot happened. And in the process, there was a lot of healing, a lot of reframing, a lot of rethinking about my life, about how to look at things, how to live with things, right? But I think it's fair to say to all my followers, all my friends, it goes deeper than that because we're not talking just 2020, suddenly Ronnie went to seek help. It goes further than that. This all goes back even to like 2008, right? The reason I bring up 2008 is because that was a time where something very rough happened, right? Um, I lost my 14-year-old sister due to a severe asthma attack. And that's where I started to actually experience mental health problems on a depressive level, especially with depression, particularly. Um, I found myself feeling very withdrawn socially to the point that I didn't really want to deal with anything or anyone. And those of you that know me also, I was an active musician in New York City as well, back in Brooklyn with my band Brotherhood of Outcasts. Hence, the tattoo obviously is backwards because of the camera, but yeah. Um, yeah, we were a trio from an alternative hard rock band, based in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens. And yeah, we used to just jam together, play together here and there, whatever gigs we could. Um, but when my sister passed, I started getting very withdrawn. I started to I suddenly, me being the lead guitarist and co-lead vocalist, I just didn't want to deal with anything or anyone at that point where I was like, it was showtime and I just wanted to sleep the day away instead. There were times where I just didn't want to even be there. It got to a point where I ended up asking for time away from the group altogether for like 3, 6 months or whatever. Eventually I came around, but even then it's just my focus just wasn't there. Lights were on, but no one was really home. Then adding to that, sure, I was taking care of myself by going to the gym, all that, right? It's cool. But the issue was left unaddressed. A lot of it had to do with the fact that, there's a lot of sense of guilt, a lot of sense of pain. And then years went on, didn't really address the issue. And eventually it was it was 2012. There was one day, and of course, during that year prior, I was dealing with relationship issues, whatever, as do a lot of people. But that year in particular, I was experiencing depression where I, hmm, where I just literally just was feeling down in the dumps for 4 weeks straight. Like every day, I just felt like crap. I wished I had just fallen asleep and never woke up again. No, there was no self harm involved. There was no thoughts of self harm. It's just never been me. That's just not how my mind is geared. To be very real with you, very honest with you guys. But I just always had that thought. I was like, can I just fall asleep and never wake up again, type of thing. And then that's when I was like, you know what? If I'm experiencing this feeling, this mindset, and and at that time, I wasn't coped with the mechanisms that I have now to be able to deal and manage and navigate through depression or anxiety. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just check myself in the ER, see if I can get some help. Why the heck not? I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anybody anything to my memory. I just checked myself in somewhere at a ER in a hospital in Sunset Park in Brooklyn. They were like, hey, what's your emergency? What's going on? I'm like, listen, I was very straight with them. I was like, hey, um, I've been experiencing depression for over 4 weeks straight. I mean, I'm not thinking of hurting myself or anything, but I just feel really down in the dumps. I need help. And of course, they were professionals. They did what they had to do. Like, okay, just sit down, write your name down, write down what you're experiencing, this and that, whatever. We'll work with it. And of course, as protocol, asking the 21 questions, having in a room, keep an eye to see if maybe homicidal watch, maybe suicidal watch. Never know. And that's okay. It's understandable because they probably deal with all sorts of people. And next thing you know, they sat down with me, ran through these questions, right? And that's when they were able to pinpoint right then that I had a mild case of depression, right? Mild depression, like that. That's what I was diagnosed with at the time. Then, they gave me a referral using my insurance to see a cognitive behavioral therapist at the time. And then I want to say from maybe March up until maybe November of 2012 that year, I was seeing a therapist. And to be honest, the guy was great. He was really, really good. And because, again, the issues at the time, like, I remember when my dad first found out that, you know, I was diagnosed with mild depression, he immediately blamed himself for it. The thing is, I'm like, Dad, this ain't about you. Like, and you know what? I think about it now as a father, now that I myself am a dad, I understand his frustration a little bit because, like, was this something I did? Was this the way I raised him, or was I a little too rough around the edges with him? That type of stuff. Who knows? He probably had those thoughts and just didn't know how to tell me or didn't know how to tell anyone. Who knows? Even though my dad sometimes has a big mouth, but that's nothing to do with it here. But I understand where he's coming from now. Now that I myself am a father. But the thing is, when I was dealing with depression, then it had nothing to do with him at all. It was that sense of like loss of control of the situation of the events that led to my sister's passing. It really did take a toll on me to where I just didn't want to deal with anything or anyone. Even though I would put on a face, I'd show up to work, but I was going through emotions, you know what I mean? Like, I internalized a lot, especially my emotions. Only a select few, and when I mean select few, I'm talking like a circle so small it looks like a tight butthole. Uh, Not too many people knew what was going on in my head. Very few people I shared that with. Very few people I entrusted with. And sometimes that's a great thing. Um, so when it came to the therapy sessions, a lot of them had to do with the issues of guilt, the issues of loss of my sister. And of course, during those years, I had like the worst meltdowns in private, where like I wouldn't let anyone see. Like, I'd go off to Staten Island Ferry just so I could be away from everything and everyone, just so I can sort my shit out in my head at times. Like, those trips were actually fun. Like, either you have a reason to be in Staten Island or not. The ferry itself was just fun to be in, you know, sea breeze and everything. And a lot of it was sitting down, writing down my feelings, writing down my thoughts, and putting the light of reason to the thoughts and feelings I was experiencing that would result into this depression. Eventually, within that process of time, I learned to just come to grips with it, come to closure with it. And I remember one of the sessions that helped me with closure about my sister's passing was writing a letter to her um, about how I felt, what I thought, what I wished for her in the afterlife. You know what I mean? I don't remember the details of it because I remember him telling me, sit down, read it, look at it, you know, and then just put it somewhere. I forgot where I placed that letter. It is somewhere in New York City. It's probably already gone in cinders or ash somewhere. But I remember writing it, and that was the thing that since then I've come more to grips with the closing. And then, like, I actually started feeling at peace with my sister's passing, my baby sister's passing. Like, I felt closure. And for me, that was a start to, getting in a positive direction.